Hello everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at a LEGO China shop I built that just so happens to be full of bull. That's right, inspired by the phrase bull in a China shop, I decided to create this scene of havoc, which actually can be played as a fully interactive minigame. We'll get to that in a bit, but first let's take a look at the bull by itself, apart from its expensive surroundings. Now, it may not look like much, but the bull's probably my favorite part of the entire project, just because of how compact it is while still being able to fit all the mechanisms and details I wanted. These printed eye and mouth pieces were perfect for the face. They just work so well together to create that angry expression I was going for, along with a couple other expressions as well. Although I will say, without the horns and tail, that face definitely makes it look like a gorilla. Speaking of the horns, they're not ideal. I would have preferred a shape like this, although obviously much bigger, but this is the best I have, so it works. And I guess speaking of the tail too, I used one of these minifigure whip pieces to create that natural look, and it doesn't look that bad. This front set of legs is built into the body, so it can't move, but if you may have noticed, these back legs can move. They're on a pivoted axis that turns about 90 degrees behind the bull. And that plays an important role in the overall mechanism of the bull, which is when it bucks its head forward, it kicks its legs back. This gives it quite a realistic look in my opinion, and it's cool that the lever for the mechanism is part of the bull itself. Here I've taken most of the back off so you can get a little better view of the inside of the bull. My apologies for making the mechanism black. Makes it kind of hard to see. But hopefully you can tell that there's a string and a rubber band coming out from the back of the bull's head. And the rubber band is attached to this stationary peg on the inside of the bull. This isn't really necessary, but it just helps the bull pull its head back as soon as you pull it forward. The weight of the legs kind of do that for it, but this just makes it a lot faster and more reliable. Overall, I think the mechanism is fairly well hidden. You can see the string and rubber band once you fully extend the head, but honestly, it's not that big a deal, and it's black, so it's harder to notice. And now that I'm looking at this back area, I realize you could probably put a brick back here to keep it permanently posed, sort of like that. It's not perfect, it looks like a bit of a tumor, but that's pretty cool. I might use that technique when making the thumbnail. Or not, that looks kind of dark. Anyways, we're back in the China shop because it's time to show off the minigame aspect of this build. And to do that, we're going to need to transform this place a little bit. First of all, take off the roof so you can actually see. Next, we're going to extend the back hooves of the bull. This will make sense in a second. And finally, putting the bull in the back of this platform here for play instead of the front for display. Now, there are 4 shelves of precious china around the shop that this bull aims to destroy. And the goal of the game is basically to knock down all the shelves as fast as you can. Each shelf is hinged to the wall above a special piston that, when kicked by the bull, pushes the shelf over. Due to the room layout, it became almost necessary to have these extensions on the back hooves because without them, it becomes incredibly difficult to hit the pistons. One final thing to note before I show you all how bad I am at the game, there's a little crank here at the base of the model that allows you to turn the bull around to different areas of the shop. And the idea would be to have one hand on the crank and one hand on the bull for streamlined gameplay. And that reminds me I need to channel the bull's inner gorilla and take its tail off or else it'll get caught in these back shelves like this. Alright, it's the moment of truth. Let's see how I do. Ready, set, go! Pretty impressive for a first try, eh? Yeah, just kidding, that was only my 10th or 12th try. My real first try... didn't go as well. Yeah, it definitely takes some getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually kind of fun. Now that we got all this cool technical stuff out of the way, let's talk about the building. Now this is kind of an interesting story because I really struggled making the outside and inside of this building. The minigame requirements were very demanding, and I was kind of limited on pieces. Those two things don't work well together. For example, the bull isn't that big, and it still has a huge range of motion, so it pretty much dictated how big I needed to build the shop. The room I needed for the crank mechanism to fit meant I needed to build the base 3 bricks taller than I would have liked to. And the fact that these pistons are inset into the wall just adds another layer of complication onto everything. We also don't have a lot in the way of usable gray or tan bricks, so that was a problem too. I ended up having to get really creative to physically have enough bricks to finish the structure. For instance, these side panels do give it a nice texture, but are solely there just to save pieces. And this part where the wall changes from being 1 stud wide to 2 studs wide wasn't to give it some classic Gothic architecture look. I just had a lot more 2 stud wide bricks than 1 stud wide bricks. But I think the most jarring sacrifice I had to make was the decision that the bull had just literally broken the 4th wall of the china shop. Yeah, I barely had enough pieces to build 3 walls. There was no way I was building 4. I'm pretty happy with how the crater in the wall turned out. However, there's no rubble on the floor aside from all the broken glass, so apparently the story we're going with is that the bull was already inside the shop and had broken the 4th wall out towards us. Apparently. Anyways, I thought we'd finish off by taking a look at pretty much our entire dark blue collection, aka the roof of the shop. I tried to build the frame and as much of the roof as possible in black because we actually have black pieces, but even then it was a challenge to find enough dark blue for all the visible portions of the roof. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this strip of tan right here is just to match the level of the rest of the building when the roof is in place. These 8 skylights are of course a diabolical scheme to save on pieces, but they're actually surprisingly helpful. They let a decent amount of light into the shop, and they're pretty good for detail. Which, by the way, I went completely overboard on. I ended up using almost every dark blue piece at my disposal to make this thing as ornate and apparently Chinese as possible. Are china shops Chinese? Probably not, but this one is, I guess. And I guess with that, we'll wrap this video up. If you liked it, we'd appreciate it if you would kick that subscribe button, and I guess we'll see you next time. Bye!